We had a really veteran group last year, guys who kind of knew the defense in and out. And, this year we transitioned to some new guys who have great energy. And the great thing about coaching, when you get some young guys in there, it helps you kind of get back to the fundamentals of making sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted. So it's been really great for myself and really everybody in the room just to kind of start back at zero and make sure that we go to every detail so these guys can be at their best. And so that's kind of been the biggest deal of getting those guys kind of ready to go.
When you do lose veterans like Kobe and Melo, how does the leadership kind of conversation go when you're bringing in new guys? You want young guys to lead as well. What's kind of that conversation like?
Well, initially, as a coach, when you kind of have a young guy, you have to take that role. And then hopefully some of those guys, as we kind of get into the process, they step up and understand what the expectations are in the room. Every coach is different how they handle certain deals in certain situations and how we go about teaching in the room. So initially during the spring ball, when we're putting all the kind of the new things in, it's really me leading. And then as we go, we got to mold leaders. You know what I'm saying? And so, and a lot of that in leadership is teaching them how you want them to lead. And there's a time to holler and yell, and also sometimes to encouragement. And sometimes that is not expressed enough when it comes to leadership. Everybody wants to be loved, everybody wants to be pushed, but you have to read the room and you have to know how about going to do that. So right now, it's a little bit of me as a coach. But as we kind of get towards the second half of spring ball, you start to see some guys kind of emerge in the vocal aspect.
You talked about guys kind of emerging on the vocal aspect. Have you seen people kind of stand out as you guys get more and more into practices?
Yeah, I think as guys get more comfortable with the scheme and understanding the adjustments, then now they could not so much worry about where they have to line up and where their eyes are, but also now can kind of start encouraging other people to meet the standard that has been set. Running to the ball, punching at the ball, those things that I think sometimes maybe we lose when we have so many veteran guys that we have to get back to the fundamentals. And so a fast team, a hard playing team is also going to give you an opportunity to be a winning team. So that's what we're trying to stress right now.
How valuable was it for Jalen Todd to get the playing time he did the second half of last year?
You know what? He's a quiet guy by nature, and even when I recruited him in high school, but he has the intangibles of what it takes. And so last year, being able to kind of baby step himself in there and not expected to go out and start right away and to learn from some veteran guys, I think he's really stepped into this role really, really well. I think he's a guy that, when I look back at spring, is probably one of the guys that is really a highlight of that secondary room. I'm very, very excited about him, his future, and he just needs to keep growing and keep learning the game. He's still young, but he has the sky's the limit for him as well as many others. But I'm really, really excited about where he's at right now.
What's that like working with a guy that you recruited at a different school and circling back and having him, like, when you saw him in high school, like, how much has he evolved too since then?
Well, in the recruiting process, it really makes you feel good, because you evaluated him in a way that was a take for you then. You go to another institution, he's in the room, and those same notes that you wrote down a couple years ago are still true. You know what I mean? Great person, does things the right way. The administration at his school said nothing but great things about him. He always was very respectful when he responded. He was on time. Those same things, you see him in the meetings every day. He's not on a lot of lists. He's on time. He's prepared, right? We got to get him a little more vocal, but he has the tangibles that it takes to be a really, really good football player in this league and in the country. And so when you look back at your notes from over the years, it makes you feel good as a recruit, like we had it right. And so thank God I didn't get him, and now I can coach him now.
Are there things that you do to try to get someone to be more vocal?
Yeah, so one thing that I learned, one of the biggest things that I've kind of saw over the years, and it really happened during COVID, because everything was on Zoom, nobody had to speak and nobody had to talk, and the same thing when it comes to just the business world, right? My wife is in communications here at KU as a professor, and what you saw was you see a generation who had to stop speaking, looking people in the eyes. And so what I did was I came up with some things that it's about 14 things I had these guys read. And it's just make them get in front of the room. And these are things that if you guys were my son, these are the 14 things that I would want you to be. And return everything you borrow, be on time, don't make excuses. And they just go up there. And one thing I'm trying to put into their brain, that when they leave this university, what makes them a successful citizen. But then also, too, give them confidence to get up and speak in front of their peers. And there's some words in there a little tough, right? And how you had to fight through it, and we all laugh at one another when we mess up. Everybody included, coaches read it in there. And so those are little things that we just building the culture that Coach Lipo has built here, that we can get these guys out to be more vocal. Because when you look at society, that's what you see. People who really don't want to look each other in the eyes, don't want to speak. And we as coaches, who are really teachers, have to make sure that as we teach in the game of football, we get these guys prepared for the real world.
Brandon, with new guys like DJ and Jalil, what do you see from them?
You know what, DJ is a guy that is really, you can tell he's played a lot of football. He has good football IQ, and he's played a lot of snaps, and you'll see that when he plays. He takes coaching well, and a lot of times when you're kind of a guy who comes in from the portal, it takes you a while to kind of learn the room, see where I can kind of fit in, where I can kind of go and be a little bit more vocal leader. But as they kind of get around our family, they start to see that they're a great fit for us. You see that coming from Jalil. He's a great athlete. He's still younger than most people think, although he was a portal guy. But he has all the talent in the world when it comes to athletic ability. And so he's a guy that once he gets comfortable with the checks and knowing what he wants to be, he kind of reminds me of Kobe a little bit. You know what I mean? He's a thin guy, but he has great athletic ability. He can run. He's got good transition. And so I'm really excited to him, and hopefully he just keeps buying into the culture, keeps buying into how we work here. And I think that he's going to really do great things for us.
With Austin Alexander, what did you notice from him coming off the redshirt season? How's his spring gone so far?
I think the confidence is starting to grow in him. You know, one thing that you kind of see when you come from high school and you have to develop players, their season is a lot shorter than us. And so last year you kind of hit that wall. You know what I mean? You're like, oh man, you got to get up in the morning. It's cold. You don't see the sun. When you get here, it's dark. When you leave here, it's dark. And for a young guy, sometimes that the length of the season kind of takes a toll. And so now he kind of understands what it takes to go through a spring ball, what it takes to go through summer, what it takes to go through a season, and you start to kind of see him develop as well. We got to keep just working on fundamentals. I think when you have a young group, it's like, you know, I tell guys basketball, man, in the fourth quarter, these games are going to come up. It's going to come from free throws at the end of the game. And that's the thing that you were taught as a little boy, right, at the little rec center. And the same thing with football. When it comes down to it, it still goes back down to fundamentals. Where are my eyes at? Where are my adjustments? And that's what we got to keep just teaching these guys communication. Be confident. If you're gonna mess up 100 miles an hour, because you never know what your 100 miles an hour might mess around and create a takeaway. So those are things that we just kind of keep hammering on these guys.
Anything else for Coach Shelby?
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, so appreciate you guys. Man.